And all the way from Côte d'Ivoire with me, Charlène Kouassi. Hello, Charlène. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it is. It is great to see you, Asha. Hello.
It's good.
Since Yaoundé.
Yes, absolutely. Last time we met in Yaoundé in Cameroon. Yes,
yeah, for the Movin'On Impact by Total Energy.
Absolutely. It's great to see you again and have this conversation around Africa. But probably for people who don't know you, Charlène is the director of the Movin'On LAB Africa. And speaking about that, probably tell us why it is so important for Movin'On to have a local presence on the African continent. Tell us.
As a world-leading ecosystem towards sustainable mobility, Movin'On has to be present on the African continent to really better understand the needs, the trends, the dynamics around mobility, because they are different for the ones we have experienced in the north.
Totally.
So it is important to tackle diverse priority topic. We're talking about air pollution, we're talking about decarbonation as a whole, but also fleet renewal, a lot of topics to actually work on, powered by the Movin'On network.
Right. It's very interesting because when we speak about mobility, we tend to get stuck to the problems we have here in Europe, but the issues and challenges in Africa are sometimes similar, but sometimes very different, because the continent, from country to countries, the challenges are quite different. So when you were mentioning yourself air pollution, decarbonization, but before we talk about the solutions, because I know there's lots of solutions on the continent, just give us a brief insight of what are the major challenges when it comes to mobility in Africa.
Actually, there's many things, Asha. First off, I would say that the sector is dominated by road, essentially, and particularly with popular transport, what we call in French informel ou artisanal, so informal transport.
Informal transportation.
But I tend to favor the term popular because it's popular to people, and it's actually the essential supply. It's the main mobility provider in African cities. And this particular sector is characterized by many things. First, it is not regulated by public authorities, and it's essentially individual or company property based, meaning that an individual or company, anyone literally can buy a minibus, a motor taxi, a shared taxi, for example, even water bus in some cities, and actually put them on the road to provide mobility
because
services.
of the lack of alternatives. That's also one of the reasons.
Because indeed the public transport offer is not sufficient, doesn't actually answer and match the demand of the population. So there's many ways to actually move around the city thanks to this popular transport, which is, in my opinion, an unpolished diamond that we need to regulate more, to invest more in. This is the first fact of major challenges in Africa. The second one, if I may, it's the fleet renewal. Cars are aging in the African continents. The average age is around 20 plus years. So there's a critical need to actually decarbonize this fleet and to find
the vehicles are of another generation also, because they have been there for a long time.
It is, and there's no value chain to actually maintain them sustainably. I'm not talking about electric essentially, but even ICE vehicles need to be maintained. The energy efficiency have to be actually work on to be able to actually continue to ride this vehicle, because they are the ones that are ensuring sustainable, not sustainable mobility, but at least the mobility of people every day.
Giving access to mobility to everyone. So tell us probably a little bit more about the actors who are really addressing, the principle of universal mobility. Who are they? Are they the cities? Are they the public, private? Who are they?
Inclusive mobility is something that is a public issue, in my opinion. Yet private companies and the civil society are the ones that are really raising awareness, promoting inclusivity in the city, and they are more proactive as well. They're closer to the problematics, to the communities, and they know how to better address them. So the private sector and the civil society, they are actually the ones that are promoting inclusive and sustainable mobility and are proactive, because they are closer to the problematics and the people, the communities, and they actually know best how to address them and partner with the governments to actually build stronger policies, adapted policies for the population. There's a lot of examples from Kenya with the Flown initiatives, for example, or Critical Mass Nairobi that are promoting public transportation, but also cycling, and bringing a sense of ownership to the population, to feel safe and to feel actually included in their environment.
Another key topic when it comes to mobility is access for women, because most of the time they are the drivers of the economy, and they don't have access to basic rights like mobility or other. So maybe can you, I know this topic is very dear to your heart, Charlène.
Yeah, I was actually about to say that one of the key elements also to take into account when we're talking about sustainable mobility is gender equality, because transport planning is not gender neutral, mostly dominated by men. And these have an impact actually on how we plan and how we organize transport. And there are some initiatives that are actually empowering women into becoming their own boss, driving their own taxis, managing their own companies. I have a dear colleague called Patricia in EDRC that is doing so with her company, Ubis Cabs. Yeah, that you know.
I know her. I've interviewed her in one of my shows, so she's doing a great job.
She's wonderful. There's the Green Cab as well in South Africa that is building a momentum towards an e-academy for women. To be able to work in the delivery or e-hailing sector. We need skills for women and for all, actually, because at the end of the day, we're talking about inclusivity.
Absolutely.
So
I totally agree. There are lots of very interesting solutions on the continent that already exist, and they just need a nudge. And now, maybe, Charlène, just very briefly, we spoke in the last episode of Movin'On Inside, we spoke a lot about rural mobility. But when it comes to Africa, I know the paradigm is very different when it comes to rural and urban mobility. What are the disparities that you see? Can you just set a little bit the plot?
Yeah, there are many disparities in terms of public transportation first. Most of the time there's no organized transport in a rural area.
No infrastructure at all.
So, and it's really a paradox. It's a paradox because agriculture actually happen in these areas, and they are the ones who
drive the economy.
Driving the economy and generating the most revenue from the GDP. So, and at
the same time, there's no investment in mobility, and they drive the economy of the continent. This is what you see.
Apart from the road that are maintained, most of the time, like the infrastructure, the national authorities are making sure that the road network is being maintained, even in rural areas. But apart from that, the access to services, basic services like health, education, economic opportunities is difficult because there's no modes of transport for them. And an initiative that is really dear to me in Zimbabwe, managed by Shenta Blomen, is actually leading the way towards this inclusion of rural women, notably, to improve their working condition and to set up a kind of hub for them, for the battery, because it's electric mode. We're talking about three-wheelers. So to really build an integrated solutions to be able to assemble the three-wheelers locally, to be able to maintain them, to maintain the batteries as well. So an whole ecosystem powered by an e-mobility policy to actually make that happen.
Brilliant. Final question. We know Africa is quite rich in diversity with a growing innovation ecosystems. Maybe for those who don't know Africa, there are lots of innovation, lots of things happening on the continent. But what do we need? What are the keys to scale up these solutions, those innovations that already exist? And you said it.
First off, I would say telling their stories. We have to tell their stories. We have to promote them. It's actually the case with Movin'On LAB Africa. We shine lights on these wonderful initiatives. This is the first step, to actually build a platform to make partnership with the public authorities, the public institutions, the ones who are deciding and making the laws. We have to bring along civil society. We need cities.
All the stakeholders
together to really implement powerful and adapted projects. And if we're talking about scaling up, we need money. We need investment, and we need more involvement from the public sector at a technical, financial, and strategic level as well. Because these are future national champions. They are flagships for the countries. And no country can develop itself without local value creation. So we need them. And in Movin'On, we need them as well to build a better future together and better mobility systems as well.
I think the message is loud and clear, Charlène. Thank you. It was great to have you.
It was so great, Asha. See you again.